Good afternoon, Judge Block.
Good afternoon. What's your name again?
I am Josh Howard, your current clerk.
And this guy looks familiar also.
I think so.
Hello, I'm Daniel Horowitz, a long time ago clerk.
Yeah. So 5 years ago, I did a podcast with Liz Peck. It was terrific. And she said, if I was alive, please come back again for your 65th, and we'll do another one. And here I am. And I just want to thank everybody who's been so gracious and so friendly to us and to, all of my former law clerks here, soon to be former law clerk. It's just great to be back at Cornell again. So I thought that it would be pretty good for the oldest federal court, the oldest judge from Cornell to be here at this momentous moment, celebrating my 65th reunion. And I turned 90 years of age 2 days ago. And I have here Josh, who's my current law clerk, and Daniel, who was my law clerk 10, 12 years ago.
I'm celebrating my 10-year reunion, so I was your law clerk 9 years ago.
So it's great to have them here. And I think it's so important to be able to interact with the old judge and the young future great lawyers of the world. And it's a pleasure for me to have them here. And I will say about Daniel that I think it was a decade ago, you're celebrating your 10th right now.
That's right.
And where did I meet him? So I happen to have the privilege of being a judge at a moot court competition. And Daniel, and tell me again your partner's name, I forget.
Me and Jonathan Goddard were in the finals of the Kuchik Cup.
Yeah, and I made a horrible mistake. I voted for them. And then I think it was not too long after that when I offered Daniel a clerkship. And I think I want him to tell you what happened right now, because we are here representing Cornell, the past of Cornell Law School, the future of Cornell Law School, and it's so important to be able to interact with these young former and soon-to-be former law clerks of mine. Daniel, you tell me first, how did they finally get you?
We had met at the moot court tournament. It was an argument all about the Alien Tort Statute and its application in extraterritorial situations.
That was totally alien to me then.
That's right. So thereafter, Betsy had come up as well for the reception, and later that summer, you had another former Cornell law clerk of yours give me a call and basically let you know that you were interested in hiring me. I guess you remembered from the moot court tournament.
Right.
And after a conversation with him, he said he was going to recommend to the judge that I be hired, and I was very excited and came 2 years after law school.
So we had a hard time getting another clerk, and I said, who could I possibly call? So out of desperation, I called Dan Howard, said he was with the Fifth Circuit, and he was kind enough to accept. So he had an interest in clerkship because he went to the Fifth Circuit before he came to the district court in Brooklyn. So how was that transition? I'm curious.
Well, the clerk on the circuit court was wonderful. But the pace and the level of work is similar to what you're studying in law school, in that you're reading cases, you're trying to figure out an application to a real life circumstance, but thinking at a higher level. Coming to work with you at the district court, it's much more fast pace. You're deciding and helping you decide real life circumstances with the people you're impacting right there, standing in front of you in the courtroom. And there's probably no clerkship like a Judge Block clerkship.
Well, okay. But, I really do reach out to Cornell to take a clerk from Cornell. And I've had just tremendous clerks, one after another. The next one that's coming in August is out in that room right now, Daniel. And Josh is going to be leaving me in a month or so. And Carl was the one who took the place of Liz Peck, and she was the one that really did a great job in reaching out to the judges from Cornell and placing the Cornell law students for clerkships. And I know she's not here now, but I want to thank her now for the great job she did. And if not for her, I don't think I would be with these two wonderful law clerks and the next one that's coming up. So obviously, I'm a little partial to Cornell. And I'm speaking to the future Cornell law clerks, hopefully. And I know that you're going to have a wonderful opportunity if you can get a clerkship. I would think that it's a terrific way to start your career, and I'm sure that Daniel and Josh will agree with that. So anyway, Daniel, it's a pleasure to see you here. A great surprise.
Wonderful for me, too. Thank
Daniel
you,
is going with a wonderful boutique law firm. He's made partner this year. I'm very proud of him, and I'm looking forward to what he's going to argue his first case before me so I can hold against him. Josh, why don't you take it over now?
Sure, Judge. Well, I guess I'll take it over by turning back a question to you. You're here at Cornell celebrating your reunion 2 days after your 90th birthday. Happy birthday, of course.
Thank you.
How does it feel? How does it feel to be back at Cornell?
Well, it's great to be back at Cornell. I have a hard time getting around the fact that I'm 90 years old. And it takes a little bit of psychological adjustment to do that. And one of the things that I'm really privileged about is that generation-wise, I represent the generation that's, fading out. And I'm fortunate to have these young people that represents the future of the law. And we really need these folks. We need all of you to really make sure that the law is going to be in good shape and we will continue to comply with the rule of law. So I could go on and on and on, obviously. But for me, it's very special to be here again. When I was here 5 years ago, naturally, I wasn't so sure I'd make it. We're very fortunate. We have no control over how long we live. We do have control over certain things. I can decide who's going to be my law clerks. I'm very fortunate to have these two people here today. Did I answer your question pretty well?
You certainly did, Judge Block. And I want to follow up on something you said because, over the past year, and I'm sure Daniel had the same experience, you speak a lot about how getting to work with younger people as a judge is one of the best parts of being a judge. I was curious what you think. How do you think that getting to work with young clerks helps judges administer justice? How does it help in the role of being a judge?
So, we deal with generation gaps. There's no question. We have the Me Too generation. We have the baby boomers. We have the generation X, Y, Z. I can't keep track of it all. My generation is sort of, fading out right now. So when I have Daniel, when I have Josh, when I have the next generations come, it's really so special to be able to interact and to really bridge that generation gap and do something which we're having a hard time doing. There's a lot of sense of entitlement these days. We have a lot of issues. We all know about the issues. But to be able to interact and to be able to respect each other, even though you're from different generations, different mindsets, I think it's so important. It's what we have to really try hard to do today. And I worry about the next generation because they have a huge responsibility to really, perpetuate the rule of law and to make sure you do as good a job as I think our generation has done. So hats off to you and good luck, guys. When you look at the major differences between now and Josh and Daniel and when I was at Cornell Law School, we had 5 women in our class. One is here with me today, still Judy Richter. She's the only one around. And when you think about the fact that only 5 women, were in the class of 59, and look at what it is today, it's probably over 50%. So from a generational point of view, one of the great advances we've made, I think, in my lifetime, is to see the ascendancy of women, who now are really very much a critical component of our world. The majority of the federal court judges in the Eastern District of New York today are women. The last 3 chief judges were women, and I'm sure that Cornell probably has at least 50%. So that's the major change that I've seen in terms of seeing the generations pass by, in terms of the ascendancy of women to the bar and to the bench in a major, major way.
Turning back to your own experience about Cornell, because you are the oldest Cornell judge, but like all of the people here, all of the current students at Cornell, your journey began as a 1L student, coming to Cornell, studying Marbury v. Madison, nervous about maybe nervous about being cold called. What parts of that experience stand out to you all these years later?
Well, do we have a couple of hours here now? I can continue to talk. Good question, Josh. But so I'm going back now 65 years. And I tell the story of one of the books I've written called This Row, pretty good book, about the first day that I was in law school at Cornell. And we had a brand new dean, Gray Thorne. He was up from Texas. He spoke like a Texas accent, just like yours.
Exactly.
And he called on his first student to say, now we're going to talk about Marbury versus Madison today. Where did the plaintiff hang his coat, Mr. Block? Well, I was shaking, I was stammering, right? And I muttered in the coat room. Well, Dean Thorne said, you know, Mr. Block, sometimes you make a mistake in letting people into Cornell Law School. I'm not so sure Mr. Block will be here next year. And he went on and on and on. So I was a pariah. When I was walking down the street, the dean walked by, people would walk away from me, right? I got the ultimate revenge. And Dean and I ultimately became very close friends, and we were on committees together. And I had to really do something here to make up for that horrible beginning, so I decided to become a federal court judge. I am the oldest Cornell judge, and I think Las Vegas is placing book on how long I'll be in first place. I hope I'll be here 5 years from now, but who knows? But that's what I remember my first day at Cornell Law School.
And in Disrobed, which I'm going to plug as a really excellent, remarkable book, your memoirs, and I recommend it to all people at law school thinking about becoming lawyers. You know, it's a really great looking glass into what it's like to actually be a lawyer, and you know your life story is populated with, you know, endless and incredible tales of the battles that you've fought. But one of the things that I really appreciate in the book, and you talked about this in law school, is that you're candid about feeling nervous sometimes, or that when you were a younger lawyer you were feeling anxious sometimes. You talked about that when you first went to law school, you tried to knuckle down and really tighten up and embody what you imagined was the kind of perfect student. But that really wasn't your style of doing things. What was that experience
Well,
like?
anyway, Josh, so one of the things that I get good feedback from the book is that, unlike you geniuses, I was not in one or two or second or third in the class. I was pretty well up there, but, you know, not really in the top, 10 or 15. And people feel that they can relate to that, because you don't have to be in the top of your class to really have a terrific career. I know many of my colleagues who, Cornell, Columbia, other law schools, Brooklyn, who've done extremely well, who were not necessarily the tops of their class. So it's important for people to understand that not everybody can be number one like this guy was, right? And there's still a great place and great need for lawyers, who have all the various skills that they have. Maybe they're in the middle of the class, maybe they're not. So I was in the middle of my class after my first set of exams. And I tried to be a perfect law student. I went to class every day. I wore a suit, shirt, and tie, not like what I'm wearing today. And I took copious notes, and I was going to give it my best shot to give myself the best opportunity to get good grades. And so I took my exams. I did okay, but I remember I was 48th in the class at the end of my first semester. And I realized that maybe, okay, I was, happy to be a Cornell Law graduate. I'll do okay. I'll manage somehow. I won't be in the top of my class. And then I loosened up in the second semester, and I went back to my old ways, cutting class, putting sweat clothes on, being, inappropriate in my own unique way. And what happened is that when I took my exams the second semester, I was loose as a goose. And the differences were palpable. I went from 48th to 3rd, believe it or not. But the lesson I learned is that you got to try to be yourself a little bit. And the stress, I was under such stress when I took my first set of exams, because, I didn't know whether I was fish or fowl. You go to law school, you don't get an exam until a couple of months. It's not like undergraduate school, I guess. And I was tight as a drum, and it showed in terms of my productivity. And when I see lawyers naturally ask me now for advice, because I'm old, so I'm supposed to be a philosopher, right? But I want to tell them all the time is to try to deal with your stress, because we're under such pressure, to have to produce, to have to put in hours. And I think it places a toll on us. And if you can find a way of chilling out by not being one-dimensional, go to the theater a little bit, embrace some hobbies of yours, and just try to be aware of the fact that we live with such stress. And if you can minimize that, I think there's a direct correlation. The less stress you have, the better you're going to do, the better life you're going to have. So I'm supposed to be a wise man now, and I know people Josh, who come to me in their mid-60s, in their 70s, senior partners of major law firms, managing partners on this board, on that board, and suddenly they no longer have those positions. They're aged out of their offices. We don't have a lot of respect for old age in our country, unlike Greece, where I have a home. And they ask me, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And a lot of them really suffer severe depression because of that. So, for the young people, I just tell you, you got to have a life. You can't just be one-dimensional, even if you're going to be extremely successful, even if you're going to be managing partner of your law firm or whatever you're going to do. You're not going to be a happy person when you get to be my age unless you have a little bit more reach and breadth in your life. Go to museums, go to the theater, go to the Philharmonic. I take my law clerks to the Philharmonic as part of their training, actually. So,
and that's how you run your chambers.
I run my chambers that way also.
Because what I recall from when I was clerking with you, Judge, is that we would have a sentencing, we would have a hearing, we would have an argument, and then we would all retreat to our computers, but you would go to your keyboard in your office and start working on the song you were writing for Judge Spat and Judge Platt's 90th birthday.
You remember
and it
that?
went Spat and Platt.
Yeah.
Platt and Spat.
Wow.
What do you do with that?
Yeah.
Do you remember
so,
that?
Yeah, but I have a left side of my brain, so I've given vent to that. And I didn't do that for a long time. But I started writing books when I was 78. I wrote This Road when I was 78. I wrote 5 books since that. So I'm supposed to be a super ager because I've written 5 books in my 80s. This is the one that's coming out in September. We're going to talk about that. So I'm very lucky. But, you'd be surprised. We all have something in us that we can tap into if you're open-minded. Paint, write books, write music, whatever it might be. But have a balanced life. Remember what I'm telling you, your stress level is the important thing. Okay, next question.
Well, just to echo that, I really, that's one of the many great lessons I think all of your clerks take from you is learning to relax a little bit and not get too excited and not get too anxious and deal with the stress better. That's one of the great lessons.
Yeah, but we try to mix humor and we try to use humor for serious purposes. So that one of the things I tell jurors when I'm on the bench is that when they go home at night, they can't tell their loved ones anything at all about what happens. Don't read anything in the newspaper. The only thing you can tell them is that the judge looks just like Brad Pitt. And they get the message and they laugh. So I'm a great believer that humor can be used for very constructive purposes. Shakespeare had humor all the time, right? In every one of his plays, falsely also. So we try to do that. It's part of my philosophy to really mix, trying to not take yourself too seriously and then take yourself seriously when you should take yourself seriously. And we try to do that with our law clerks. And we hope that the law clerks are able to understand that and to really relate to that. Not everybody does, but most of them do. We try hard. And you guys have done a good job putting up with Judge Park.
You put up with us, Judge Park. And the story about jurors resonates because I know in Disrobed you had spoken about doing trials when you were a solo practitioner and seeing some judges have a kind of standoff relationship with the jury and just bring them in and use them for utility but not engage them with the process and not have any kind of humor. And you talk about that as an influence on your own way of handling jurors and educating them about the court system and using trials as an opportunity to really make citizens aware of the civic duties that they're playing out. Yeah. Was that something that you would always wanted to do? If you became a judge, you knew you wanted to have that kind of...
Well, Josh, I never thought about that because I never thought I was going to be a judge. Because I did everything you should not do if you want to become a federal court judge. So it's all in the book. But I really believe in breaking down barriers to be able to interface and interact with everybody, lawyers, law clerks, jurors. And the more you can get them to ease off a little bit, it's easier to communicate and it's more effective in terms of their experience. Surprisingly, most of the jurors have never sat as federal court jurors, let alone state court jurors. Most of the jurors are really not well versed in the federal courts or the judiciary. There's abject ignorance, surprisingly, throughout our country. So I think that maybe one of the responsibilities of a judge is to try to educate people when you have an opportunity to get to them. And I talk to the jurors. Not doing the trial, Afterwards, the law clerks come in with me after they read the verdict, right? So I try to, really use this as an opportunity to give them a civic education and make myself available to them. And I think they have a great experience because they take it seriously. They walk out of there better citizens than when they first came in, and I think they have greater appreciation for what we're all about. So I think it's important.
And you have shared that that's a component of a philosophy that you share with Judge Posner in understanding the role of judges as these unique actors within the political system who have this huge wealth of information and so have a duty to really share that with the public.
Yeah.
You cite that as one of the reasons that you...
So there are basically two schools of thought. The traditional school of thought is that judges should not be heard other than through their formal writings and other than their court work, right? And then Judge Posner, who unfortunately is having some difficult times in his old age, was the one who proposed a different school of thought, that judges have a lot of knowledge that they accumulate, and they almost have a moral responsibility of sharing that with the public instead of keeping it in pectoris silently. So he really promoted what I embrace as the other school of thought, and I've taken a stab at writing a bunch of books because I believe that the knowledge that I've accumulated over 30 years, there's a lot of things that I think it's important for me to share with the public. So I subscribe to that school of thought. Most of my colleagues, I don't think, do that, but it's getting more and more that way. There's a proper way to do that. There's an improper way to do that. You want to do it in a way so people have more respect for the system, the federal system, the judicial system. You don't want to do it in a way which would bring dishonor to the system. It's a fine balance, but I do feel my nature is such that I'm willing to take a chance and reach out to the public. I think it's important. I have a lot of things to say, and I'm blessed with the good health and the ability at this age to be able to continue to do it.